So this is college professors turn to oral exams to combat AI. This was 2 weeks ago, NBC News. I was actually going to cover this. I think it was last weekend or 2 weekends ago. I never got around to it. I also don't know why this gray bar is here. I feel like I remember seeing that previously. Anyway, I am a huge fan of making college like actually about learning. So I don't know if that'll come up here or not. I watched a little bit of this. But this kind of caught my eye because I was telling people for a while that, and interestingly, I've had to actually rethink this a little bit. I'm not sure how much I think of this now, but for a while, I always told people like one of the worst parts about colleges. So first of all, like I'm really against cheating. It's just something that I think morally is like wrong. I think you should earn the grade you get, the life you get, the whatever it is. I think you should earn it. Now, I'm not saying it's like completely that simple. There's some sophistication, I would say, within that. But I just say all that to say, like, I'm against cheating. But I also had the opinion previously, and maybe I still think this to some degree. I'm still kind of figuring that out, thinking that through. The colleges do not have much of an incentive, or they don't offer an incentive to not cheat. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing take-home tests or take-home quizzes, it's like, first of all, what are we doing here? I guess if the goal like is still like to learn and you can do a take-home quiz to learn, take-home test to learn, you know, I think that's totally fine for sure. But I think I'm at that place now where I at least question things like that. And we'll kind of get into this video here because it kind of touches on that a little bit. Because obviously there's a concern with AI. It's going to make learning basically just like you can kind of, there's in theory, it could be a lot of stuff you could skip, especially with like essay writing and things like that, which is just so disappointing to me because I think writing is like super, and maybe I'm biased here. I love writing. I think the idea of like writing and speaking and critically thinking about what you think and be able to like sit down and really think out your thoughts, whether that be, it doesn't have to be through writing, but I think writing can do that. Talking can do that. And so I would just hate for that to go away. You know what I mean? So, but we'll watch this and then we'll do a little bit of commentary in between.
While some schools are bringing AI into their daily routines, others are actually pushing back.
Cornell professor Chris Schaefer is
So perfect homework blank stares why colleges are turning to oral exams to combat AI. I guess this is from AP and down here is as well. Quote, students in Chris Schaefer's biomedical engineering class at Cornell University are required to speak directly to an instructor in what he calls, and quote, oral defense. And then there's like a ellipses before or after the quote here. So I guess there's more to this quote, but anyway. Let's see what this professor has to say. Again, I watched a little bit of this before.
Professor Chris Schaefer is requiring his students to participate in oral exams. Now, this may be an older testing method, but some professors see it as a way to really ensure answers actually come from the students' minds. Biomedical engineering professor Chris Schaefer joins us now. Chris, I'm so interested in this. I mean, on one hand, I want to take that Boston course, right? But on the other, I think it is so important that we have sort of these oral elements. Tell us when was the moment that you realized you really had to change the way that you actually test your students?
One thing I want to add too, and I'll probably go back because I missed a little bit what you said, but one thing I want to add too is like, even for the people who don't really give a shit about cheating and they're like, yeah, whatever, I just need to like get my grade. I think it's a better bet that you don't, even if you want to be purely selfish about it, simply because you're going to equip yourself with better tools to use when you're on the job. I think a professor or a company, whatever it might be, is going to be, at least in some, maybe not every field, maybe in some field, they just want people that are going to like spit out answers or whatever. But I fear that you may be risking the amount of jobs you can get and the types of jobs you can get and the people you can connect with by just kind of like skating by and using AI when you could be building up critical thinking skills, you could be building up problem solving skills, all the kind of stuff that could be useful. Now, is AI going to like eventually get rid of that? Maybe, I don't know, but those are just kind of my initial reactions on that. But we'll go back to what she said here.
I'm so interested in this. I mean, on one hand, I want to take that Boston course, right? But on the other, I think it is so important that we have sort of these oral elements. Tell us, when was the moment that you realized you really had to change the way that you actually test your students?
I don't know what you meant by that Boston thing in comparison she was trying to make there.
Yeah, so this class is one that's taught, like many quantitative science and engineering classes, where there are these long take-home problem sets that students take home and work on. And this is where they really learn how to work on hard and difficult problems. And ever since the release of generative AI, I've been giving our problem sets to generative AI each year. And it was in August of 2025 that generative AI had near perfect solutions to these problems and to these questions. And that's when I thought I really needed to try to structure how we assess students around these questions in ways that don't tempt such a trivial use of artificial intelligence.
We talk to a lot of teachers and professors like yourself who kind of just know when they're not looking at student work and they're looking at something generated by AI. So now that you've switched to oral arguments, how does that work? What are you looking for as you evaluate your students?
So we still have them, we still assign a problem set, they still take it home, and they still submit it, their solutions to it. But we just don't grade those solutions anymore. Instead, once they've submitted solutions, they then schedule an oral exam with a member of the teaching staff.
Okay, so students work on solutions for a problem set. Students schedule a 20-minute long oral defense of their solution. Staff ask them to work out the answer to a similar problem,
where we ask them to explain, or they then schedule an oral exam with a member of the teaching staff, where we ask them to explain or justify some choice they made in their solution, to solve a similar problem right in the moment, or to otherwise answer conceptual questions about the topics that were covered on the problem set. And then that is evaluated in the moment by a member of the teaching staff.
I feel like an old lady for saying this, but I also love the social skills that sort of come from something like that. I mean, have you noticed any differences in your students' performance?
So student performance is basically the same as last year on final exams and things like that. So we don't think we're losing any student performance by pivoting to oral exams. One thing I will say, though, is that it provides a fantastic opportunity for one-on-one structured feedback about how individual students are doing. We have 6 of these problem sets over the course of the semester. So this forces a 20 to 30-minute conversation with each and every student 6 times over the course of the semester.
I want to hear that again.
We have 6 of these problem sets over the course of the semester. So this forces a 20 to 30-minute conversation with each and every student 6 times over the course of the semester about their understanding and their ability to use the content knowledge that they're learning in the class.
Quickly before you go, what are they saying about it? How are they responding?
Surprisingly, I was afraid students would be very nervous about this, and they were maybe for the first one. But by the end of the class, both the teaching staff and the students prefer it.
Sounds like a tough course. Chris Schaefer, thank you so much for your time today.
I think the reason I really like that too is because I actually think it could be really useful as like a confidence building kind of exercise that maybe you couldn't get from like at home. Now maybe there are some at home uses of like you're in a comfortable environment, you can build up, you know, your confidence there. But I also think that like if you are like, let's say like you're a socially nervous person and you go out and you do this, it might build some confidence to have someone that like if you have a good professor who I think he said other people were there too, who can like help you improve, but in a way that's constructive, that might help you with something like social anxiety. So there's that aspect of it. And again, you know, I talk about this like all the time, man, like the importance of critical thinking, being able to like think for yourself, being able to really solve complex problems in a way that is thoughtful or consider multiple variables. I get the sense that something like this could help with that too, and really enforce that in a way that is also like natural. Now, again, this is like, I'm sort of just like speaking on the top of my head here, but I just can't help but imagine, you know, doing this in person. You're talking to someone, you're getting that human feedback and not just like, did I get the answers right or wrong? I wouldn't be surprised at all if that helps with like the reinforcement of the information itself. And again, like you're building like social connections, you're building confidence in theory with all these things. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's super interesting, but